Hey YouTube, Paul Phillips here with Patek Photography and Gear Reviews. Today I'm doing a review just for you guys. Well, at least for a bunch of folks that have been asking me a lot of questions about manual speed lights. There seems to be a lot of confusion with the Yongnuo speed lights. I mean, there's so many of them, 568EX, 560, 562, 563. You know, it's probably a little daunting for new photographers coming in to know which to buy and how they work. So let's take a quick look. And this is just going to be a peanut version, you know, explanation of how things work with Yongnuo speed lights, but I hope it'll help you. So I've got our D200 here, and I'm just going to put it into programmed automatic mode. So most photographers, they start out with the old pop-up flash here in TTL, programmed automatic, and take a picture. And the whole deal here, the idea of TTL is that the metering, the light intensity output, is determined by through the lens metering. That's what TTL means. So then they graduate to, you know, in the Yongnuo case, if you opt for a Yongnuo speedlight, you'd be using the YN568EX or the EX2. And so now you can take your 568EX, put on the top of the camera, it's set to TTL mode, and you know, the beauty of that is you don't really have to think about anything. The metering is done through the lens to give you an ideal exposure. Now there's lots of times when the camera's going to be fooled and you're not going to get the proper exposure, and that's typically, you know, as photographers advance, they realize, you know, it's time to get more creative, it's time to get our speed light off the camera, it's time to take a look at manual speed light or strobist photography. And so one option you have with TTL speed lights would be to take these off camera. Is they have a set of radio triggers called 622Ns. I'm not a big fan of them because I'm not really a TTL shooter, but that option is available for you. So if you're into TTL and you're using Yongnuo products, 568EX, 568EX2, the 2 gives you the the added functionality to use the speedlight that's on the camera as a master controller. Now the pitfall of having your speedlight on the camera, of course, is your subject's going to have red eyes in them. You know, the people you're taking pictures of will get red eye and all this kind of thing. So that's another reason a lot of photographers switch to manual, or at least switch to getting their speedlight off of the camera, is to get away from some of those side effects from flash photography. So that's TTL in a nutshell. Now let me just turn this off. Okay, probably the #1 question I get about Yongnuo 560 speedlights is, will it work on the camera? So let's just do that. I'll pop this on the camera, tighten it down. Just gonna put my camera into manual mode here. So yeah, as you can see, you know, the manual speedlight is going to work on the camera, but that's not the intended purpose for this type of speedlight. This is really the wrong way to use it as far as I'm concerned. So the deal with manual speedlights is that, you know, right now my shutter speed is at 200, my aperture is at f8, and you know, I've got 1/16 power here. That might give me a good image, it might not. I mean, I have to play around with the light output and the manual settings on the camera. But the bottom line is the light intensity from the 563 to or 560 is going to be determined by what you set it to on the back of this speedlight. So that's the deal with the 563. Now let's turn this off. The intended way for this speedlight to be used is off camera. So I'm going to turn it back on. And I'm just going to hit my channel button here to switch. I want to put this into the remote mode. So, and by hitting the channel button 3 times, you'll see it gives me my dip switch settings here, and it gives me my channel and my group settings down below. So now, the way to fire this speedlight is to take one of these YN603N triggers and use this to fire this. And the difference between the 562 and the 563, the 3 has the radio trigger built into it. So this doesn't have to be sitting on top of one of these. And that, my friends, is a big game changer for sure. So now I'm going to take my 603N, I'm going to put it on top of my camera like so, and let's hope you can see this. She fires. Now, that's one functionality that you have with the 563. You've got your speedlight off camera. You can have it in a beauty dish, softbox, strip box, whatever you want. The options these days are endless, okay? So you also notice that I have the cable, the shutter release cable, plugged into the camera as well. And the advantage I get by doing that is I can take a second 603 like so, and I can use this if I'm doing self-portraits. That's worth all the tea in China as far as I'm concerned. So there's the basic functionality from 560, 562, 563s. But just remember, it's only the 563 right now that has the radio trigger built in. So if you're new to photography and you're looking for a decent manual speedlight, by all means get the 563. I would say get yourself at least a couple of these triggers so that you can do self-portraits or trigger the speedlights remotely. You'll be glad you did, believe me. Alright, so next thing I wanted to cover was I'm going to take my trigger off of the camera, just lay it on its side, but I'm still connected to the shutter release cable. Okay. Now recently I did a video on the YN560TX. This is a radio transmitter for controlling multiple speedlights. And the beauty of this little bad boy is that I have a separate video that you can refer back to on the YN560TX, which is this little transmitter here. And now, it doesn't matter how many speedlights I have, I can control the output for these speedlights. Instead of having to do it on the back of the speedlight, I can do it here with the transmitter. And like I say, that makes a huge difference, because if you've got one of these stuffed into, say, you know, one of those soft boxes where the speedlight is right inside the soft box, it's hard to get at. All you have to do is change the light intensity on the back. Wow, that's a game changer. So let's just fire this to make sure that it works. Yeah, there we go. And I'm not going to show you pictures because they're just, you know, you're going to see the dirty old shop situation here. The point is that I'm just trying to explain what each one of these devices can do for you. So now you've seen 563, radio triggers built in, 560TX on top of the camera to control multiple speedlights, and the 603N over here can be used for self-portraits using a second trigger like so. So I hope that gives you sort of a general idea of how all these devices sort of work together, and maybe clears some of the air on some of the issues with Yongnuo speedlights. There are other speedlights in the Yongnuo arsenal. 560EX is one, and they work with the idea of that speedlight, I believe, is to work with the 568EX, so that if you have this on your camera and you want a slave flash, you could use a 560EX. So really, it's just up to you what you're doing. But if you're into strobist photography, or you're getting started with manual triggers, I would highly recommend get yourself one or two 563s. Definitely get yourself a set of 603Ns if you're Nikon. If you're Canon, it's going to be 603Cs. And, you know, absolutely get yourself a 560TX controller, because then you can remotely control your different manual speedlights. You'll be so far ahead of the game. You'll be amazed at the light quality that you can get. So there you go. I hope it helps. That's it for this one, and we'll see you soon. Don't forget to subscribe and like us.